Hello, everyone. I'm Sudeep Charles, and I head product marketing for Chef SaaS. With me today are Mark Kevins, who leads product management for this product, as well as Nishchal Reddy from our product management team, right? So over the next hour, we'll cover an overview of key trends driving SaaS in the context of DevOps and IT. We'll then get into the specifics of what the beta version of Chef SaaS has to offer, and how you can be, a part of this program as well, right? So, with that said, let's get to it. Right. In the recent years, a number of different types of users of SaaS products have increased, right? And they've increased drastically. This was initially thought of as a solution just meant for SMBs and startups, but SaaS now is really being considered to be used by businesses of all sizes. It's viable, it's cost effective, it's a nice way to enable agility and digital transformation as well, right? And there's a bunch of data on that slide, but there are 3 points that I definitely want to call out. One is the SaaS market itself is increasing, and that's increasing at an annual rate of about 18%. Adoption across verticals is increasing, and you see that even verticals like healthcare, for example, are adopting this at a rate of close to 20% on an annual basis. Agility and scalability, again, two key motivators for implementing and adopting SaaS solutions. And this is according to 70% of CIOs that were interviewed and responded this way. But there are really a couple of nuances to understand in all of this adoption, right? The reason that a lot of SaaS adoption happens is essentially one, to avoid the costs and security risks associated with shadow IT, the use of unauthorized, software at work. Large enterprises, make it easy to consume SaaS resources as needed, right? So SaaS therefore eliminates all of that shadow IT, enables you to administer your infra really well. Then because large enterprises are fairly, or even mid-sized enterprises are fairly complex, no single SaaS solution really is able to provide all the required features, right? So users typically use a number of different solutions and try and cobble this up, to try and get to a given aim. Software like a Chef SaaS is going to be able to help you do all of that because it's that flexible, right? And we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit, right? Now, SaaS, and this is just as a quick primer, as a security or as a service, is essentially based off the internet. It's an approach to software distribution by which software providers would host a combination of software, a database, or code, and you could create applications that are accessed by your users on their connected devices, right? So SaaS really brings the power of a firm's workflow to any user in the world at any given time, right? Why is this important to people like you? Essentially for 3 reasons. You're able to deliver code quickly and reliably. You can create scalable, resilient application environments really quickly. And of course, all of this leads to the ability for you to be able to offer killer user experiences at the other end, right? But the first step to do all of this is to recognize that DevOps is really an important step in this direction, right? In being able to significantly affect the quality of your products. And offering DevOps as a service provides that possibility to effectively do this, improve the state of affairs of a project without really any impact on staff bloat, right? The positive effects, of course, are on your screen, right? They boil down, to decreased operational cost. There is, of course, lesser downtime, reduced operational costs, and of course, as all of this, compounds, better system performance, right? So that's a quick primer of what SaaS is, how is it, why is it adopted, and why is it important to adopt DevOps as a service in this case, right? Another key concept that I did want to cover before I hand it off to Mark is our view of policy as a code, right? So historically, most policies are defined, and enforced in some way. Policy authors typically translate business requirements perhaps into a Word document with specific rules that should be enforced. For example, enforcement of policy is based on maybe a ticketing workflow, where tickets are filed against maybe a compliance or a security team. For each of those tickets, the policy document is used to validate the ticket and then the ticket is either approved or not, or it's denied. Now, how do we see this? Our driving mission has been policy of code, and that the idea that policy can be codified and automated, right? And this approach really allows configurations to be tested, peer reviewed, versioned, automated, reused as much as you would in terms of application like code, right? And applying this policy, this policy as code approach seems natural, right? And it also brings with it a bunch of benefits. And a lot of you are aware of what the benefits are, so I won't get into that. But treating policy as code requires a way to specify policies in the form of code, and then as a mechanism to enforce and automate them. And Chef really offers you the tools to do all of that. What's more, you're going to be able to do a lot of this using a SaaS platform, right? So consumption of it also becomes easier. So with that, what I expect from Chef SaaS, right? So Chef SaaS is a cloud solution that uses policy as code to set infra and compliance policies for your entire company. And it allows large IT fleets to be securely configured in minutes, to be, it enables you to meet regulatory standards on a continuous basis, right? And it also provides for unrivaled automation. We've been in this business for a long, long time. We know what we're doing. So there is enough pedigree here to prove our, our mettle in terms of what we are doing in automation. Automating infrastructure, setups to guarantee that every system on the network is properly and securely configured is something that we've done. You're able to also use built-in industry standard benchmarks, CIS benchmarks, and these are STIGs to validate security updates and software updates. You're able to monitor the details of endpoints at, on every data center and hosted environment at any given time. And there's a consistent dashboard view that you can look at any given point in time. It also encourages really cross-team collaboration, right, between DevOps, Dev, security, and compliance teams as well. So there's a whole bunch of benefits that Chef SaaS has to offer. Now, there are broadly two parts to this, right? So the first part is, of course, infra management, and what that essentially entails is the automation of infrastructure configuration for large IT fleets. It'll be able to provide fast, reliable, and a consistent set of configurations for your applications. And alongside all of that, you're also going to be able to quickly redeploy systems if you need to, just given the flexibility of what we have to offer, right? So that's one part of it. The other part, of course, is compliance management. And with this, what we have to offer is essentially, ready to use, like I said, audit remediation profiles that have been benchmarked by the CIS and STIG, continuous audits that we can enable for your entire fleet. And if there are any configuration drifts, you're going to be able to do that, detect that very quickly, and you're going to be able to do this agnostically, right? So across both Mac, Windows systems, we're still going to be able to do a lot of it. We even help a lot of Windows clusters being managed as well. So that's a quick sense of what we have to offer on the compliance side of this offering. Now, why Chef SaaS? Well, all Chef installations can be managed from the cloud, right? And with that, there are advantages as well, right? So no additional hardware or software setup that you need to really worry about. You're hiving off all the worry to the experts at Chef to be able to do all of that. Infra and compliance management in a range of environments can be taken care by us. We also provide a high level of scalability that allows you more access to services, features that are available on demand, right? So all the good stuff that you normally get from a SaaS deployment is something that you can expect from this beta version of Chef SaaS, and we're building towards that. So what are we going to do in this webinar? Well, three things, right? We'll demonstrate how you can deploy and version of automate in the cloud. So that's one thing. We'll give you an overview of the life cycle of the beta product, and where is this going to go? What are you going to do next? That's the question we're going to try and answer. And of course, we'll inform you in terms of how you can sign up for this beta program, right? But before I hand it off to Mark, why don't you take a quick poll, and that will just pop up in a minute. Do take a minute to quickly respond to that. And while you do, I'll hand it off to Mark. Mark, all yours.
Thank you, Sudeep, for the time.
Sure.
And I'll give just a moment here for everyone to fill out the survey, and then we'll move on from there. All right, as we are taking a look at the overview of the beta, what we're looking at today is, as we're building our software, we want to make sure that we are looking at some of those guiding principles that Sudeep kind of talked about. We want to be able to remove the need to install software on premise, at least for your Chef infrastructure. We want to be able to help support the infrastructures that you have today, whether they be on-premise, in the cloud, a hybrid, of which we know a lot of our customers are all taking that journey today. We want to be able to remove that need for you to have to manually deploy upgrades and updates. Being able to take care of the updates and the upgrades is part of what we're looking at as we are hosting these environments for you. The biggest thing that we're really trying to look at is, how do we not only build for the now with what we have today with our products, but also how do we build for the future? How do we give you the ability to instantly see the latest and greatest that we're working with, offer new features as they come about and as we build those, and then also give you sneak previews in some cases, depending on what it is that you're trying to look for and how we've worked together as an engagement together. We want to be able to support the today. So being able to work with the infrastructures you're used to working with today, as well as add in for those customers that aren't taking advantage of things today, such as Chef compliance, and endpoint security and automation for Chef Desktop, as well as work at the products that we have with Chef Habitat today. So with that, the Chef SaaS Beta is available today. We have it as a closed beta, so it does require sign up for customers to take advantage of. Inside of there, what we do is we give you a self-contained tenant that you can use for a license period of about 6 months. This allows you to take a look at all of the different options that we have today with our current product offerings. So again, this is beta. So we do want to make sure that people understand that this is kind of closed. We're trying to keep non-production based nodes and management infrastructure back to your regular production systems. But anything that you're using for dev or QA, that you can do up to 5,000 nodes with these environments today. And as we move forward in the future, we'll remove some of those restrictions. This is just where we're at today with the beta. I want to do a quick walkthrough of what the process is to sign up for the beta, and then what does it look like as we are building those environments and getting you started. So today, we typically do a meeting with our customers, and we'll run through use cases. So we want to make sure that the environments, as they're being created, make sense for the customer use, to make sure that both Chef has the ability to review the usage of what's going on in those environments, and customers can properly test what their use cases are going to be. Typically, that then sets itself up in about an eight-point document that we will use to help set up the environments. The environment setup is relatively easy on our part. It takes a little bit of time and a couple of commands for us to start deploying the environment based upon the information given to us by the customer. As we'll run through this, one of the things that you'll notice is that we are hosting these on AWS today. So this is something that we're doing as a part of the beta. We are looking at other options as we move into the future for where we will host these. We've heard from comments from some of our early adopters that maybe they want to do things like Azure or GCP or any of the other cloud hosting things. And as we start to develop our final offering beyond beta, is looking at some of those opportunities to be able to deploy there. In this particular case, you'll see everything is AWS. After we get through our lovely deployment process, what you will get out of the environment is a completely blank automate-based environment that you can then hook up your credential files to, so you can start to configure your nodes, put those nodes into the beta environment, and then begin to start doing your work. As we'll see here as we switch over in just a second, we'll have the open environment. We will provide, as a part of a secondary meeting, the credentials that you need in order to log into the environment, and then also set your credentials files so that you can start managing nodes within the beta environment. As you'll see here, we do have an environment that is completely open for you to start off with, as we give you the starter kits that will start you off in your journey as you're working through the environments themselves. As we move on, again, the beta does give you access to all of the workloads, anything that you're used to working with today. These are, cookbooks, any of the infrastructure and compliance management that you're used to working with today. Those can be automatically set up and then deployed using the beta environment. As an example of this, one of the things that we see is a lot of our customers are moving from just pure infrastructure management to having a compliance. In this particular case, this was the first security scan of a particular node, and it happened to pull up quite a few different things for the admin to run over with our security or their compliance experts to see whether or not the warnings that we're throwing up, do they make sense for the particular environment that the customer is dealing with, or are these things that we can add either remediation steps or waivers to if they're not if it's not information that makes sense for the customer at that time. As we're working with our customers as a part of the beta environments, we are treating these environments as if they are production, constantly monitoring if there are any issues that are coming up at the time. We're fixing those on the back end. And so we're trying to keep this as seamless as possible. And really, from your perspective, as you're working with these environments, you should be able to see the same kind of uptime that you would expect if you were managing these servers yourself. It's just we're doing that managing remotely. And again, with that as a thought process, we're also looking at the upgrades and making sure that customers are seeing those upgrades come through, but at the same time not affecting their workload. So today, all of our beta environments are based upon the build that we had back in August. Here in the month of November, we're actually going to be doing an upgrade to the version that we released of Automate inside of October, and then some of our backends, such as the latest and greatest Chef servers and everything else that we've got running in the background. So we'll actually do that and then test with our beta customers as well, that they're not seeing any issues and that they are still able to do all of the same workloads. Scans are still working for them. Remediation schedules are still working for them. Everything will be as if this is a production environment. And this is really what we're doing as we're making a part of the environment itself. So as we move beyond beta, some of the things that we're really looking at and that we're focusing on is making sure that we're not, before we're releasing a final build of this product and making it commercially available, is that we are doing some of the heavy lifting on things that we know need to happen in the background, whether that's data archival, telemetry, making sure that we've got the right metrics for automation, making sure that we've got the right scaling at the point in time that makes sense for our customers. And then also being able to remove some of those restrictions that we talked about in the first part of the beta, which is no longer saying, hey, you can only have up to 5,000 nodes hooked up to these. You will have the ability to do everything that you would need to be able to do as if this was production. As we move to our actual MVP or GA build, some of the things that we're additionally adding into there are functionalities that are not in the Automate UI today, but you might see in some of our more legacy versions of the application, such as being able to add users and being able to work with things like organizations, being able to make sure that we have a true multi-tenancy thought process that works for everyone. So we know that some of our customers can be able to work inside of a set of clusters where we can share the information, but you don't see another customer's data. Some people will be more closed off. We want to make sure that we have the right settings that make sense for our customers. And then, of course, being able to add some of those self-serve functionalities that just make this a true SaaS type product. Looking into the future, again, ease of use is always a focus and topic that we talk about here at Chef. Continuing to use the cloud products to be able to make sure that we can start to live those goals. Being able to add things such as pay-as-you-go thought process, self-registrations, so that you can do this on top of the Chef SaaS thing. Auto scaling and auto scaling up, auto scaling down, all of these types of things, trying to take out some of those manual processes. And then get additional functionality as we move into the future will also be goals that we're looking at. This is also why we're opening up the beta to our customers today, is to help us lead that roadmap for the future based upon the comments and the thought processes coming from our customers. Now, before we move on to anything else here and get to any kind of questions that you might have, we do want to pull up another poll around based upon some of the things that we've introduced today. Would this be something that you're interested in? So I'll give a few moments here before we move on to the next slides and then get to the questions and answers. Okay, so for those of you that have answered or maybe take a little bit more time, feel free to initiate and answer the poll. The real question of if you are interested, what are your next steps? Really, it comes down to having a couple of sessions with the product group, myself, some of the other folks that are on the call here as well. And what we will do is we'll start to set up that setup for the registration to the beta. Inside of that registration, again, it can be as simple as an email. But what we like to be able to do is also have a couple of meetings where we talk about the use cases that will make sense, both from our side as well as your side, to make sure that we get the best possible engagement that we can have during the feedbacks and review sessions. After we get that part taken out of the way, we'll actually set up the environments and then do a kickoff meeting. The kickoff meeting basically makes sure that each one of our customers that are signing up for the beta have the ability to sign into the UI, so you can review what you're doing inside of the UI. We also make sure that you can connect via your Chef workstation, that you can actually talk to the servers that are part of the Chef SaaS. And then the last part of that is to make sure that if there's any questions that you have, that we can answer that before we start on to the next session, which is allowing you to review the beta, do some workloads inside of the beta themselves, and then us have feedback sessions. Typically, we do about 2 feedback sessions a month with each one of our beta customers. And some of this starts off relatively easy. The first start off of this is, basic things like, are you seeing any page loads? If you're doing a compliance scan, are you seeing anything that's starting to lag? If it was something where the security scan took a minute, and then the next time you're starting to do it, it's taking 2 minutes or 5 minutes. We want to know about those things because those are things that we can investigate, and will eventually make the product that much more set up for everyone. The last part of that is then we'll also want to review some of your use cases that you were using it for, make sure that you're actually able to accomplish those use cases, as well as any comments that you might have in general. And then also make sure that if there are things that you would like to see or that you would need to have in order to make that move from either our hosted Chef or our on-premise versions of Chef up to the cloud, and have us work with our final product. We want to be able to address those items, take a look at them, and then be able to respond back during those sessions. Now, again, we did mention that the license are set up for about 6 months. So during that point in time, we don't necessarily want to continue to be any kind of disruption in your area, but periodically for the next 4 months after our initial feedback sessions, we would call, or we would send an email and we would say, hey, we've done something, we've done some kind of update, or we're just checking in to see how things are going, and then have a session maybe once a month, once every 2 months beyond that initial kickoff session. So with that in mind, we're actually at a point where we can answer any questions that folks may have today. And then if not, then we can kind of move on from there.
Right. And while we just cover that, a note to the to others that are on the call, feel free to enter your questions into the Q&A console that you're seeing, and we'll be happy to answer them. Right. So, Mark, we do have a bunch of questions. And the first one is, and I think you did answer this, but maybe won't hurt to do it again. When will this be available? In other words, is it going to be available right now? When is it going to be available?
Yeah, of course, the beta is available now. Our enhanced beta will be available here probably later on by the end of the year. Our actual MVP, we're still into the point of being deep into planning and development of that. Our goal is somewhere around the beginning of the third quarter of being able to have the MVP. But again, that's a high level time frame, not something that we would be willing to commit to at this point in time, because we do have a lot of architecture and other things to make sure that we have everything set up in order to make that a livable, breathable thing.
Sure. The next one is one on billing, right? So will Chef keep billing the same once we get to SaaS? So is there a difference in billing, in other words?
Yeah, so that's one of the main things that we're actually taking a look at is, and it's a question that comes up consistently as we're talking with customers, is how much is this going to cost me? Is it going to be more? Is it going to be less? Is it going to be the same? The realities that we're looking at here is, without having that final product, we won't be able to give pricing at this time. However, one of the things that we have as a thought process is to make this competitive with everything that you're seeing today, and to also be able to give you more options and to give you better ways to be able to take a look at things in the future. And that's all depending on what we can see as a part of our infrastructure, and then of course being able to make sure that we can build that correctly.
Sure. The next one is on migration, right? So this one is, how can I migrate from my current setup to Chef SaaS?
Yep, absolutely. So today, one of the things that we see without having our SaaS product today is we see people who take a journey from our hosted Chef environments. Oftentimes will go create their own environments depending on what their needed use cases are. And so we already have some idea of what it takes to do a migration, depending on the individual customer. We know that not every customer is the same, but what we are building is making sure that we have the foundation, so things like users can be easily transported over into data that makes sense can also be transported over there, and then have this as seamless as possible, with the goal of, you go to bed on a Friday night, you wake up on a Saturday morning, there's no trouble tickets, you are now in the Chef SaaS and you're no longer into the other area, but all of your data is put into there. That's the goal that we're working towards today. And again, some of the things that we'll look at as we're doing part of the Chef SaaS is to be able to evaluate maybe what you have inside of the SaaS, what you may do as a part of the beta program, and compare that with what you might do in production, and be able to make sure that we can look at those scenarios and be able to handle that by the time that we have the final product. Got it.
there's another one, and this is an interesting one. If I cannot participate in the beta program now, will there be time I can sign up for later? Right now, you would want to do it now, but hey, Mark, later possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So we know, especially the time of the year that we're coming out with this. This is an incredibly busy time for infrastructures. We know that there are systems that have to be maintained online, especially as we get to things such as Black Friday and all of the other activities that are going to happen here in the next couple of months. People going on holidays and not really being available till the end of the year. This is why we start with a closed beta. And this is why that once we get to our next phase of things, we can have a more open beta that folks can take a look at. We're going to say that for the most part, if you signed up for the beta today, or you signed up for the beta a couple of months down the road, you're going to see pretty much the same thing. What we eventually release as our GA product will look pretty much the same as what you'll see inside of the beta, with maybe one or two minor differences that you see. So jumping on the train at any point in time, we can make sure that we can get a spot for you to get into the beta whenever it makes sense for you. And again, it's one of those things where if you take a look in the chat today, one of my colleagues here, Nishal, has actually posted a link that will give you access to mine and his calendars. So at any point in time, if there's a point in time that you want to sign up, or you just want to have a chat about what things have been going on since this webinar has come about, feel free to jump into take that link and be able to jump back and talk to us at any point in time as well.
Awesome. And I think we have one last question. How long do the beta licenses last? In other words, what's the validity of this stuff?
Yeah, so as of right now, the beta license, if you were to sign up today, would last for up to 6 months. If you signed up for tomorrow, they would also last for 6 months. So we're keeping those alive, one, because we want to make sure that our customers can get the best advantage. And if you're setting something up, that you can come back to that later and not just have to say, oh, well, it was only as a part as I was talking to them. We want to make sure that you have the advantage of taking and making use of this to be able to see what's going on. And then again, as we upgrade or as we update these environments, you'll be able to see the progress that we're making and working into there. And again, since what we'll be looking at, we may be getting to a later point in time. If there's something as we're working with our beta customers and they come back and say, hey, I need a little bit more time, we can absolutely work with you on keeping those alive up until the point in time that we have the GA product. And then at that point in time, then we'll have additional discussions on there. But we don't want to leave anybody who's helping us out by trying to test the environment and work with what we have today. We don't want to leave you high and dry. We want to make sure that you can take the best use of what you're doing and take advantage of what we're offering you today.
Great. I think that's pretty much all that we had. Again, I just want to call attention to all participants today. You have the link with you in case you need a block time to be able to get your hands on participate in this beta program. Feel free to do that. But with that, I think we're all done. Thank you, Mark, for your time today. With that, I'll hand it off to Alina.
Thank you, everybody, for attending the webinar today. If you like what you saw, we encourage you to share the presentation with your teammates and professional networks. The on-demand version should be available soon, and we'll email you as soon as it's ready. You'll be able to access it using the same audience link you're using now. With that, thank you again. Hope everyone has a great day. I wasn't sure if you guys wanted to stay on for a minute or.
All right, looks like all attendees are out now.
The recording is still on, and we'll need to stop that.